So can everybody hear me? Hi, you guys can hear me? Okay, thank you,
Yes.
Zaina. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذي أذهب الله عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي يفوض أمري إلى الله بصير بالعباد Assalamu alaikum jamian wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome everyone into our continuing journey through the holy verse of the throne, Ayatul Kursi. And Alhamdulillah, we have reached that part of the verse where we talk about the idea of Shafa'a. I'm just going to read the verse of Ayatul Kursi. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum. La ta'khudhuhu sinatun wa la nawm. Lahu ma fis samawati wa ma fil ard. Man dhal ladhi yashfa'u indahu illa bi'idhnih. So in this part of the verse, Allah is saying that no one can intercede with him for you except with his permission. Illa bi'idhnih. Idhin as in his permission. So nobody can intercede. And yashfa'u indahu. So I'm taking a few ideas from some Sufi, exegesis of the Quran. And I'm going to be sharing a few of my own ideas today. And I think that I have been sharing my perspective on the idea of Shafa for a while now, here and there. But today we do it in a more consolidated way, inshallah. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that someone can intercede, what do we understand by that? Generally, we rely a lot on this idea in our religious discourses, and we talk about the idea of intercession as someone who will come and save us when we ourselves did not come up to a certain standard. So it's almost like having a blank ticket or like an entry into the heaven when we didn't pass the test. Like we weren't passing the test and somebody will just come and use their power or influence to get us in, kind of thing, right? And I used to always find it a little odd because I used to find it very I didn't like the idea of somebody um, using a certain kind of influence or a reference or a higher authority to get in the way of merit, right? Because merit means justice. When somebody deserves something, it makes sense. Allah is al-adil, like He's al-adil. He does adil, He does justice. So if you're all about justice, and if we are all about saying, well, people will get zarratin sharrin yara, in the Quran, Allah is saying that not even iota of what you do goes unnoticed. Not even iota, right? Zarratin sharrin yara. Zarra, even the zarra of the evil that you do, it doesn't disappear. It doesn't just go anywhere. It just stays in a record. So how do we understand this idea of intercession when we are understanding that Allah is going to do justice, and even the tiniest things that we don't go unnoticed, and then there's this idea of shafa. Now, how does Quran approach the idea of our learnings and teachings from Quran or scripture or hadith, right? What is the purpose? What does Allah want from all of this? Is human growth, human evolution, and the actualization of human potential. So how does the idea of intercession help me grow and become a better godly person, a godly soul, someone that is in proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intrinsically. How is the idea of intercession going to help me? So if I were to look at it, I think that if someone told me today that you can do whatever you like, but in the end, someone is just gonna come and save you, and get you wherever you kind of need to get, even if you mess up, I'm going to procrastinate, I'm going to lag, and I'm not going to be up to my best. I will kind of say, well, I don't need to do so much hard work or attention or whatever that it takes. The effort I don't need to put in, because somebody can come and fill up that gap or void that I'm not able to do. And eventually I'll be saved, right? So in that sense, intercession kind of defeats the idea of growth. It defeats the idea of human perfection, because it is actually becoming a hindrance to my perfection. It is actually becoming a hindrance to me reaching my perfection. On the other hand, if we look at the idea of khairan yara and sharran yara, even in the zarra, that Allah is saying that even the tiniest good will be accounted for, then we see that there is a signature, there is a mark being made into my soul as I proceed through my life. It is not like there are external karam and katibin, like there are two angels who are writing for me, and I can pay them out or do something to get good things written, or get some bad things erased, because then again it is against human perfection and it gets in the way of other justice. So if I have these two angels writing for me, then it is not an external concept. Sheikh Arif would a lot of times explain the idea of angels, and he would say, we don't know what angels are. We don't understand their entity, right? So imagine we know that angels undertake the proceedings of the universe. They are there to perform certain functions on behalf of God. So they are agencies from God that are undertaking some duties. Keeping that in mind, sometimes Sheikh would give the example of gravity, and he would say, how do we not know that gravity is an angel of God? It is doing a certain function. It is keeping everybody down on earth. It's a force, it's an energy, right? And we know that angels and demons and things like that, we say that, there's a certain effect of bad energy, good energy. So when we're talking like that, if we put it together, we realize that eventually everything is an energy. And angels and demons are also energies. Emotions are energies in motion, even they are energies. So energy is everything. It just transmutes into different expressions and different manifestations. So gravity could be an angel, right? So keeping that in mind, we want to come back and understand that, do these angels go to sleep? These karam and katibin within us, do they go to sleep? Do they falter? Do they forget? But the idea is that there are realities which are part of the human soul, and whatever we perceive in the outer reality of the universe is within the human soul as well. Whatever good we are doing and whatever bad we are doing, Allah is saying, in ahsantum li anfusikum. Whatever good you do it to yourself. Whatever bad you do it to yourself. Now, the idea is that whenever I'm doing any action or even an intention, like the Prophet's hadith says, so if intention is everything and I'm working through a good intention or a bad intention, then there is a mark being made on my soul. My inner reality is getting affected by it. All right. So it's not like somebody's going to make a record in a register to write down every good thing, but every good thing itself is becoming a part of my blood and flesh. Every bad thing is becoming part of me, who I am. I am using this life to sculpt myself, to design who I am, how I'm going to be when I go into the next reality. I'm sculpting myself. The soul is in a process of evolution, transformation, sculpting, designing. And when I reach there, when the body is shed, when the costume comes off, then I will show through in my real color. What did I make myself into? So in a way, it's like a stroke on a canvas. Nobody else is writing down, oh, now she made the right stroke or the good stroke or the bad stroke about an artist. Nobody's writing a commentary on it. The painting itself is going to represent what I made of myself. The painting itself will be out in the open of the good strokes and the bad strokes. And the canvas is going to speak for itself. So if the canvas is going to speak for itself, then that becomes my merit, right? Whatever I make of myself, is it worthy of being in a place of certain people, of certain level of consciousness? So if I indulge in gossip, for example, and I really enjoy talking about other people, and I watch shows that are all about gossip and blah blah blah, right? And there's nothing intellectual about my personality, or partially I am like that, but I'm really indulgent in these ideas, right? Now this is something I'm sculpting of myself. This is the nature of me. I like to gossip, God forbid. And now I'm in my other reality. I go out, I shed this costume, this worldly body, I enter the other reality. And now, if there's a heaven, and in that heaven, there are intellects, high intellects, like these people like Mullah Sadra and Ibn Arabi, and all these people are sitting in a gathering and they're like emitting all this light. And I go and I sit with them. How long do you think I will like sitting with these people talking about philosophy and mysticism and all these ideas that are beyond me? I don't understand any of it. And I'll be just sitting there and I'll be like, man, this is so like dry. I don't enjoy this, I don't like this. I want to be in like some juicy place where they do saucy talks, like, I like that, I'm not getting any scoop here kind of thing, And then I can't retain my stamina for a company like that. So I can't be in a place of consciousness like that. But if there is a group of people who enjoy that, then that is where I'll be. And Ibn Arabi explains that justice from God, the adl from God, is that we put things where they belong in their place. Where do they belong? Okay, that's why he says that God is not an angry, wrathful God who's going to say, I'm going to punish you and I'm going to put you into fire. God is just going to place you where you belong. Whatever you design for yourself, wherever you think you fit in, whatever modality of your nature fits in, you are going to be there. That is what justice is going to be. The day of judgment is going to be a judgment of who I've become. And whatever I've become, I will just be placed in that place. So my journey through this life on earth is just me making sure which kind of company, which kind of consciousness level I want to belong to. There will be people who will be seeking heaven. And, I think I mentioned it before that some teachers say that some people will just enter a heavenly stable, a stable where animals are parked, It's going to be a stable. What do animals do? They eat, they sleep, they indulge in pleasure. And that's their life. They want pleasure, they want to sleep, they want to eat. They don't have much more of a desire. And there will be a lot of human beings who will be indulging in good food, they want pleasure, they want, perhaps, like there's a sexual pleasure, there's this shahwa, and then they sleep. So that's all they want. So like they just want to be in that place in heaven. So some scholars say that there will be some people who will just be seeking this heavenly stable. It's like the animal level. You haven't grown into a higher, loftier soul of emanation that emanates light and all of that. You're just in that very basic physical desire place. So you'll just get there, right? And then if that's what you're going to design yourself to be, then that's the kind of place you'll be. And then there will be people who will just be scared of hell and don't want to end up in hell, so they'll just be in heaven somewhere. My teacher used to say that fine, a lot of us we're just going to make it into heaven. That's fine. It's not a big deal. You will enter heaven, but then some of you will just be sitting on the sidewalk on the road, and that will be your home. You just sit on the sidewalk. And then there will be some people who will be living in big mansions, and then there'll be some people who will have a mansion on top of a hill, and then there'll be some people who will have a mansion on top of a hill opposite an ocean, and there will be levels in the heaven. And you'll just be sitting on the sidewalk. I mean, do you want to really enter heaven and just sit on the sidewalk? So like, think about it. Like, what kind of heaven do you want to be in? So there are these levels, right? And there will just be people who will be just this idea of mediocrity, like just make it there. There's no need to be extraordinary or anything, right? So there will be all these levels, and then there will be people who just don't want to get burnt. So we are the ones who are sculpting our souls today in this present moment, who we want to become, the kind of characteristics we develop, the kind of taste we develop, the kind of company we enjoy, the kind of conversations that fill us with excitement. These are the things that are going to be part of who we are. It's not just going to change into somebody else. It's just that whatever we're becoming, and in healing work, in emotional work, we do a lot of work like going deeper within ourselves and digging inside. What is it that bothers me? What is it that makes me happy? So when I do personal coaching with people, and they'll tell me that this incident happened and it made me really jealous, and this happened and it made me really envious. And what we do then is that we sit and we analyze, what is the reason behind why are these emotions getting evoked within you? How do we go to the roots of it? How do we wash it out? How do we release it? How do we transmute it into a more positive, a productive emotion, right? But these are people who are very invested in their akhirah, in their inner world. They want to investigate. They don't want to die without investigating who they are, right? The one who knows themselves will know their role. And if you die in oblivion, then they say, right, that it's when you die, some people, when they will die, that's when they will wake up and they'll say, oh, wait, I was living in a dream. Why a dream? Because dream is an illusion. You thought you were somebody. You thought I was this, I was that, I was that, I was that, right? But when the costumes come off, you like, is it like a healthy body inside, or is it like an emaciated, rotten body, that stinky body that comes out? That's why there are these metaphorical explanations of barzakh, the grave, that there will be scorpions and this and that, and you will feel this and you will feel that. All of that you can just see it now. You can just see it now, right? For example, if envy is burning, there's a fire inside, and if you can see it now, you can work on it. You can resolve it. You can find the cure for it now, here. This is called going deep within yourself. And And if we can open our eyes in this world to what's going on within us, and the Prophet says, die before you die. Die as in like wake up to your reality here, so that you don't have to see all of that when you actually are shown, because you weren't willing to wake up. So then you had to wake up eventually after this life got over. If you choose to open your eyes here, you can see what hell you're living in right now. The envy, the jealousy, the hatred, the resentment. All of those are diseases within us. They exist today and right now, and they're speaking to us. They speak to us through a heaviness in the chest. They speak to us through a suffocation in the throat. When we're not authentic, we're not truthful, our throat chakra gets affected, and we are not able to be our authentic real selves. There are people who will start having issues with their voice. Throat doesn't work, and you kind of have to work on those fears to open that chakra. So all of that creation that I'm doing within myself, I am the designer of who I am. And whatever I am going to design is going to allot me a space in the hereafter. It will put me in my place when I go to that reality. So what does Shafaa'at do then? If everything is about within me, it's already within me, it's affecting my soul, then what is the role of Shafaa'at, right? And this is what I have understood. That because every little action of good and bad affects me, it is for me, the good is for me. And at the same time, the good and the bad that I'm doing is becoming part of me. It's not external, it is me. Then what is the idea of Shafaa'at? Okay, the idea of Shafaa'at, and it would be nice if I can read the root words of Shafaa'at. I'm just going to open Surah Baqarah and go to 256. Okay, 255. Yeah. All right, in the root word, we want to open Yashfa'u. Okay, now the root word has these words. To make even that which was odd, make double, pair. Make a thing to be one of the pair. This is where I want to bring you. To make a thing to be one of the pair. Adjoin a thing to its like. Provide a thing which was alone with another. Protect, mediate, intercede, be an intercessor, shafun, pair, double, Shafaa'at, likeness, similarity. Okay. So now this is where I wanted to be, that you become a pair. Okay. Now, if you see, and if you want a pair, I have these ceramic fish over here. Okay. Now these are two fish, and they look like a pair because they have similar color. They're ceramic. They're two of a kind. They still have differences. It's not an ideal pair, but still there is a lot of similarity. Now what happens is when you want to make something into a pair, like shoes are the best example, right? You can easily tell which shoe is part of a pair, the two shoes that make a pair. Why? Because they're so alike, right? They're so alike that you can put them together. Now, this is what happens as a part of, the Day of Judgment. Things which look alike become a pair. They're going to be put together. Now, Shafaa'at actually means that we become like someone, so that wherever they are, we can be at that place. If we want to go into heaven, we want to go into a certain place in heaven, then we need to become like the people of that status, of that stature. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, no one can intercede without my permission. With illa bi izni. Innahu I'm just going to go to the root words. Okay, illa bi'izni. Okay, now bi'izn means being pleased, grant the leave or allow and permit. So no one can be paired with anyone without God's permission. Okay, now we have been discussing the idea of God's permission also. So I'm going to take two kinds of look into the idea of God's permission. One is the will of God, and the other is to become in sync with the will of God. I become in sync with the will of God. Then what's going to happen? Because there is a particle of God within me, right? So in order to be paired together with, inshallah, the holy, sacred, lofty personalities of the prophets, the awliya, the awsiya, the imam, the anbiya, what we need to do is we need to emulate them. And when we emulate them, when we copy them, when we become like them, then we can be paired with them, right? I don't know. I mean, I'm a lay person. I don't know what heaven's going to be like. I don't know. How do you gain God's pleasure? I don't know what God looks like. He's so abstract. Okay, he made the world, but how do I understand the afterlife? I don't know. I don't know all of this. So then God sends a messenger. A messenger is somebody who becomes a doorway to make sense of the world of the unseen to the people of the seen. I'm a person of the seen manifested world. I have not seen the unseen world. So I'm like confused and lost. I don't know how to get there. Then God sends a messenger who tells me, you know what? I can show you the way. I can tell you what happens in the world of the unseen. And I can tell you how to get there, right? Follow my lead. I can be a role model, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes these messengers our role models, and they become our leaders, and they come and they say, do what I do, think like I think, change the way you're thinking small, like grow big, expand. Okay, think out of the box. This is what leadership, leadership is these days, is all these motivational speakers. They do this, right? They teach you how to live big, how to have a better life, how to have breakthroughs, how to be out of the box, right? Be your own leader. So these prophets and imams, they came, they took a lot of criticism, a lot of backlash. They came to change the status quo, and they said, you know what, follow my lead. I will tell you, how do you make it big? How do you get there? This is how we have these role model workshops, right? Where big businessmen who've made millions and billions will come and share their secrets with you. Like, oh, you want to get there? I'll give you the secret. Do this, follow my lead, and I will get you there. This is Shafaa'at. This is Shafaa'at. This is Shafaa'at, where you follow their lead because you want to be attached to them. You want to be paired with them. The level of heaven you want to go to, you pick. Who do I want to be like, right? And then you start to emulate them. You start to carve out a personality which can be paired with that personality, that lofty personality, And so, like I really, really like look up to Oprah and Dr. Wayne Dyer, and I wish I could meet them. And recently there was Dr. Wayne Dyer's birthday, I think, and I just really wish like I could meet him. I could have taken a photo with him or talked to him, right? Because people inspire us with their light, with their beauty. So when we see beauty, we want to absorb that beauty. We want to be like it. That's why there's a desire within human beings that when they make somebody into their role model and they do this kind of an idol worship, then they want to be like them. They want to dress up like them. I just remember in my time when I was smaller and I had my teachers, they would just warn me, like Britney Spears is really influential, don't be like her. Because they were like, oh, she's wearing these kind of clothes, she's singing like this, she's doing this, and all these little kids, they were little girls, like 6 years old or something, and they were dressing up like her. Why? Because there was this attraction towards this icon, and they just wanted to be like her. So there was this idol worship. They were worshiping her. So their way of life was emulating her way of life, right? Her way of doing whatever. And then we saw there was I saw personally, maybe I was wrong, but what I saw is that it brought a downfall to a certain level of inner growth in a lot of us. We became very superficial, very, very outer beauty conscious, body shaming. There was a lot of, this always wanting some bling, too much makeup, and there was a movement, right? I mean, these things are very superficial, and they cause us to get sucked into a certain keeping up with the Joneses, like peer pressure and all of that. And but what are we doing? We are making that choice. We are making that choice of making something into our idol and then following their footsteps and then pairing ourselves with them. Then we will be resurrected with them, right? Like this is what the Quran says, that you are going to be with your friends. And then you will say, oh, I wish I did not befriend this XYZ person. So making them your wali, like they become the people you walk after. They are the people you take as your role model. They are the people who you follow the steps. Then your soul transforms itself into becoming something that can be paired with them. So on the day of resurrection, we will be paired with them. And then, on the day of Qiyamah, we will be with them. In Jannah, we will be with them. And that's why Shafaa'at really means, what did you carve your soul into? If we were asleep all our lives, then we will be with those who were asleep all their lives. And then they will wake up. So in this idea of Shafaa'at, then we understand that our journey in reaching heaven and our understanding of Akhirah is not something that is external. It's not something someone's going to write me a letter of reference and say, please, let her go. It's okay. She was okay. Let her go. It's not like that. Allah says that not a tiny detail is going to be missed. And when your books will open, they will be self-explanatory. Like they will talk for themselves. So nobody will need to come and say, she's a good girl, or she was a this or that. It will be speaking for itself. It's like you're carving out a lamp. In these salt lamps, you carve them and then you put on the light. You're carving on your own lamp. When the light will come on, the design will show itself. Nobody will need to come and say, oh, this is pretty or not. You are you, and you're just going to be representing yourself. And when that day comes and we wake up and we will see suddenly, oh, what did I carve out? This is what I carved out. Then I will be very comfortable where I will be placed. So that's why Ibn Arabi says that there is no concept of harsh wrath or punishment in a certain way, according to Ibn Arabi. And I've mentioned it in some of my classes before. And he talks about how people will automatically go into their own particular groups and places, and that will be God's justice, and that will be God's judgment, and everybody will be happy where they go. They will suffice where they go. But the awakened ones will have an understanding of the regret of being placed where they're being placed, right? If I brought myself to the level of grade 3, and I can see that there are these gems of light and knowledge being dispersed among the people who are in grade 7 or grade 12, I will be feeling left out. I'll just feel like, okay, wow, there was that level I could have reached, but I let myself get wasted. My potential, I didn't bring it there. So according to a lot of mystics, this journey is going to keep continuing, and the process of growth will continue in the afterlife. But why is this life so important? And why is it that we really need to reanalyze the idea of Shafaa'at? Is because Quran constantly talks about a regret. that we will experience when we will have finished this tenure in this life. There was a man who came to Imam Jafar Sadiq and he said that I find it a little unfair, Imam, that we have to live for eternity, like not even millions and millions of years, but eternity, like unlimited amount of time which I can't even fathom. And you're gonna, like, God is just gonna judge me and decide for me with these 60 years, 50 years, 30 years, 20 years of my life, well, depending on how long your life is here, right? And Imam said that the nature of this world is that if you lived here for 20 years and you go, and if you lived here for 20,000 years and you go, whatever has to be carved out of you, whatever level that you needed to reach, it will get manifested within that time. That's when you go. This world has a quality that it will take you to your trajectory of life. What path do you want to choose? So when I say trajectory or path, what I mean is that if you choose a path of procrastination, if you choose a path of sluggishness, where you kind of not bothered, you're like, yeah, life is going, I'm just going to go with it, then that is the trajectory you're going to set for that life, and that's the speed at which you're going to continue to grow in that world as well. Perhaps there will be some, like unit change, like we have centimeter to inches. So it's going to be like some sort of a unit change in that world, where perhaps one day in this world will be 1,000 years in that world. And if you're going to take one day to do something here, then you're going to take 1,000 days to do it over there. There might be a unit change in that reality, but whatever trajectory we set in this life, if this life was a life of curiosity and growth and search for truth and a passion for growth, and there was a certain speed to your yearning, then that's what's going to continue in that reality as well. You're going to continue with that kind of speed in that work. So imagine if you achieved like, for example, you spend 1 hour every day into self-reflection. Then if 1 hour over there is equal to 50,000 hours, or 1 hour is equal to 50,000 hours, then that's how fast you're going to grow there, because your growth in 1 hour is going to get multiplied and expedited as well. So in that sense, we don't know what is going to be the difference in the speed over there, but we surely do know, well, to a very great extent from what the teachers tell us, is that whatever we will decide over here, the trajectory is going to continue into that work. Right. So that is going to be our understanding of Shafaa'at, that don't get lazy with the idea that something external to you, outside to you, can come and save you. Okay, nothing will save us except what we take with us as part of us, what we made a part of our soul. That is why the idea of, they say that if you do this good deed, then you get so many trees in Jannah, then you get so many houses in Jannah. Now, if you don't have this body over there, then if you don't have these eyes over there, then will we see these kind of trees over there? Will we see these kind of houses over there? If I'm a soul, and if soul is like massive, then can I fit into the kind of houses I have over here? No, right? Even on Earth, there were civilizations where people carved their houses in mountains, in stone, some built them. We have all these archaeological data proving that there were so many different civilizations. So what kind of life will we have over there? It's not going to be this materialistic substance life. And I really love this understanding which Sheikh told us. And he said it's going to be like a projector screen inserted with a USB. So you are collecting information, you are collecting data about who you're becoming. in your soul. It's getting fed, right? I really also like this idea of it's so much more progressive. It's not like you're writing handwritten journals, but it's fed in a USB. Anyway, so like, you have all this data within you, and you wake up in your grave, and this data that was fitted into your USB gets plugged into a projector, a holographic projector. And whatever you were happy, joyful, colorful, lively, all of that, right? Your USB is plugged in, the holographic reality that's going to emerge out of that data on that USB is going to be lively and colorful and expansive and smiley and happy and beautiful, right? And that's why there are so many stories, right, which say that people who went into the grave, it wasn't small, it was so big, and there were banquets of food, and there were joyful merrymaking, and there were gardens, and the grave was so expanded. And then some people will say that, these are stories, right? Like we have stories of scholars who, I grew up reading these stories that, there were scholars who were crossing the graveyard, and they were invited by the dead in the grave, and then they entered the grave, and this is what they saw. Now, I don't know what kind of metaphysical exchange they had, but this is what they've written. And then there were people who say that somebody went to the grave and they heard people screaming, and there were noises of squishing and the bones crushing. It is all because of what you fed into your USB. And when the USB was plugged into the holographic projection, that is what the grave became. You took your grave with you. You took your expansion with you. You took your contraction with you. That is all you're going to see. So on that day, each soul will be put face to face, witnessing what they have collected all their lives. This is what the Quran is saying, right? You will be put face to face with what you have done. God is not going to give us any external punishment or wrath or anything. We send forth, Quran says you are sending forth whatever you are creating, you are sending it forth. So this is where I want to talk about the idea of isn't God's will and our will. All right. There are certain aspects to this understanding. And it takes us into a little discussion into free will and predetermination as well. Now, when we say Allah wills something, then growing up, the idea was that randomly God will have some favor for someone. He will pick somebody who will do intercession for XYZ, and they'll say, okay, you're good to go, you're cleared, go, kind of thing. Because it's God's will. God can guide whoever he likes, God can misguide whoever he likes. But then with God's justice in mind, we understand that no, it can't be like that. There is an aspect of merit. Then we see that what is God's will is that Allah says that not even a leaf falls without my without my amr, without my permission, right? So if even a leaf cannot fall without his permission, then how is it that I can pair myself with somebody without God's permission? Now, there are certain aspects to God's will here, and there's an aspect of predestination here. I will pair myself with somebody who will inspire me. Now, isn't it interesting? I was born in a Muslim home, so I'm inspired by Prophet Muhammad. I was born in a Muslim home, so I'm inspired by the Imams and Imam Hussein and Imam Ali and the saints, right? Because I was born here. Somebody born in a Hindu family will be inspired by Krishna. Somebody born in the Judaic tradition will be inspired by Moses. We are also, but we have these hierarchies to what and how much we get inspired, right? So then there is a certain aspect of differentiation in who becomes my role model and what path will inspire me. And then we see that there are people who are born in a Judaic tradition, but they're Jews, but they choose to become Muslims. There are people born in Christian traditions and they convert to another religion. There were people who were Christians, they became Buddhists. Buddha inspired them. So we're seeing that whoever we get inspired by and whoever becomes our role model, then we will pair ourselves with them. That is going to be the Shafi for us. Now that becomes an idea where free will and predestination kind of amalgamate, because that's an amalgamation that happens in moment to moment. How is it amalgamating? Is that we believe that it is God's justice, as I mentioned earlier, that we chose our journeys on earth before we came here. We decided, we were given a choice. What do you want to achieve? What is your intention for this journey on earth? Who do you want to become, right? And we made a lot of choices. So we made that choice, who's going to be our parent, who's going to be the people that I will be in the era of, what time, stuff like that. But then there's an aspect of a higher power of God, which works together with this free will. So when I am going to be on this planet and I'm going to be following someone blindly, I am just going to follow some, actor, some singer, I mean, even they are amazing. Like I really respect Will Smith, Jim Carrey, Keanu Reeves. They teach a lot. I follow them regularly. They have a lot of wisdom. So I don't want to label someone and then decide any kind of level of goodness to that. I'm just saying that we decide our role models. We decide who we want to follow, and we are kind of in that position to take that step. Now, who is going to be my Shafi? If I'm deciding, then why is the Quran saying illa bi izni, only with his will, right? Because there's an aspect of God being my supervisor. He is the ultimate guardian. He is the ultimate one without whose permission not a leaf falls. So when I'm in this arena of making choices for myself, it is in God's will that I make choices. That is one aspect. It is in God's will that I make choices. So how can I explain this better? In school and in college, it is with the permission of the college that I can choose my certain subjects. So it is with the will of the college administration, headmaster, principal, that students will be given a certain level of freedom in choosing their subjects. So that in that sense, whoever they want to become, whatever they want to learn, whatever profession they want to choose is their choice. But it is under the supervision and the permission of the higher authority. The higher authority is giving you this space to exercise your free will. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us this permission to decide who we want to have the Shafaa'at of. And that will come with me deciding who I want to become. And when I decide who I want to become, I decide my destiny. Now, Imam Ali says, be guarding of your thoughts. And this is a saying that is associated with a lot of sages like Buddha and all these people, right? We don't have an exact one person, but a couple of people are associated with this saying that be mindful of your thoughts, because your thoughts become your habits, and your habits become your actions. Your thoughts become your actions become your habits become your character, and your character becomes your destiny, right? So we're seeing that with God's permission, I can exercise my free will to decide my destiny, who I want to become, where do I want to be allocated in afterlife, in this life. And even in this life, people who awaken will see that as their levels of consciousness change, their tribe changes. There's an amazing post, a quote that is a very new age one, which goes around, which says, your vibe attracts your tribe. In a gist, that is Shafaa'at. Your vibe will attract your tribe. So if you raise your vibration to the vibration of a certain tribe, automatically that energy will pool together. You will attract the right people, you will attract those people into your life. You know, that is why, I mean, just by the way, that is why when we see certain people come into our life for a certain way, the irk us, the irritate us, we don't like certain aspects of them. And we will realize that there's a part of us which is just like them. We just don't want to see it in them, but there's a part of them that is inviting us to a part of us. There's a reflection, there's a mirroring. So there's a saying of the Prophet, a hadith, which says a believer is a mirror for another believer, right? We mirror each other because every believer at a certain level of belief will be vibing together. They will be showing to each other what is within each other. And that is why all ulama say, scholars say, even when we're in the heaven, even when we're there will be a constant growth, because the actualization of the soul is to merge with God, to become one with God. And God is infinite. So the journey is infinite. And so the journey of the soul is infinite. And so this work of constantly falling and getting up and healing and learning and unveiling is going to be an infinite journey, according to a lot of scholars. And for that, the journey continues in the heavens. So what we're doing here is that we are setting the trajectory, becoming where we want to be placed, deciding who I want to be placed with, and then taking this understanding into account that I'm the co-creator of my destiny. There's a higher authority, and that higher authority is allocated a certain level of freedom to me. And in that freedom, I decide where I want to be allocated and where I want to go and who I want to become. And that's why we are the co-creators of our life. We're not bound. There is nothing that is going to be done out of merit, beyond merit, right? There's no handing out free coupons kind of thing. It has to be done within a parameter to ensure that there is legitimate growth. The reason corruption, referencing, using higher authorities to hand out checks and positions, all of this is wrong. Intrinsically, yeah, there is injustice, and people who are more worthy don't get their chances, and I'm talking about offices on earth. That's all fine, but intrinsically, when a person cheats, on an exam, there's an intrinsic loss. They didn't learn. They didn't realize where they stand. They had an opportunity to analyze, where do they stand? Where do I stand? How much do I know? And without taking a true exam or a test, now I don't know where I stand. Where is my knowledge? Who am I? I have not learned. So there's an intrinsic loss when we move away from merit, when we procrastinate, when we use shortcuts. That's a given. It's by default. So no matter how much we make our way through and we take shortcuts, we are going to be the losers. I mean, imagine if, like I said right in the beginning of the talk, even if somebody gives me a free ticket and says, oh, you got to sit with the Prophet, inshallah, one day, and I go and sit there, but I haven't gone through those levels of experiences and knowledge and light to be able to vibe with that same light. I won't be able to benefit from that light, and that would be such a sad thing. So when we have the opportunity, we have to wake up and change and work on ourselves and be proactive. And like I said, that when the Prophet said that if somebody's 2 days are not, different, if the 2 days are equal, they're a loser. That means that There has to be a certain level of acceleration in my change every day. Every day I have to be proactively taking time out for my soul to say, who do I want to be placed with? Who is going to be my idol? What station do I want to achieve in the hereafter? Do I want to be stuck? Do I want to regret? So Quran, in its warnings, in the conversations of the feelings of hellishness, drinking boiling water, ashab al this, the people of the this, the people of the that, all of these apparently painful descriptions of hell that we see in the Quran are actually very, very big blessings. They are a discussion which actually falls, and obviously everything falls under that, but it actually falls under God's mercy. He is giving us an alert, a notice of attention to wake up and say, you know what, if you procrastinate here, if you don't wake up, you're going to really, really regret. You're going to regret because you're going to experience this, you're going to experience this, you're going to experience that. I'm not going to be doing that to you. I'm just making you aware of your nature, how you have been created, how cause and effect works. And I'm making you aware of how the universe works, and you better buckle up. So him warning us is a huge blessing in the way that is warning us of the unseen, that we can't seem to understand, right? So I wanted to touch upon a few ideas on the Holy Prophet, which again got left behind because I had other ideas to share, but inshallah, next week or someday we will look into it. In the light that I wanted to discuss, if we want the Shafaa'at of the Holy Prophet, then who was he? So then we will talk a little bit about the Holy Prophet, which will be like a whole lecture on its own, inshallah. Let us put up our hands to conclude this session. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Oh Allah, we come here in an effort of seeking, of yearning, but these are mere acts of lip service. Oh Allah, these inspirations, they come from you. The knowledge is yours. The words are yours. Oh Allah, all mistakes are from us. We are vessels. And oh Allah, could you please, we beg you, oh Allah, could you please put an effect in these words, an inspiration in these words, so they permeate into our souls and not just remain words that fall on deaf ears. Oh Allah, save us from the day when we realize that we've been deaf to all the words of nasihat and all the words of counsel and guidance. Oh Allah, save us from the day when we realize that we have been blind to the truth. Oh Allah, save us from the day when we have to regret and we have to face the regret of our own actions that we had sent forth. Oh Allah, save us. For nobody can save us except you. We cannot save ourselves, oh Allah. We are flawed and we are weak. We are oblivious. Oh Allah, we fall into slumber. We fall into unawakened states of oblivion. Oh Allah, grant us the blessing of being awakened to your beauty, to your realities, to your truths. Oh Allah, we beg you to make us one of your really, really close walis and friends. Oh Allah, this is a small, humble being with a big mouth. Oh Allah, we come to you with aspirations and inspirations and passions and ambitions which you have gifted to us. Oh Allah, with all of that you have gifted to us, we beg you to not leave us in mediocrity, but take us into extraordinary levels of ecstasy, miracles, beauty, unveilings, and love. Oh Allah, ultimately help us, enable us, guide us to that place of beauty that we call love. Ameen Ya Rabbal Alameen. So I'm going to continue the recording into our question and answer session. I'm really grateful to Ghulam Uncle for his contributions regularly in our classes. And if there are any questions, please go ahead. Okay, so we have this message here. What does Quran say about intercession? Is there a notion of intercession in Christianity? Sufis quote on die before you die. I said to, okay, so there's a quote here. I said to God, I will not die before I know you. God replied, he who knows me never dies. Beautiful. What a beautiful quote. Really, really touching. I said to God, I will not die before I know you. God replied, he who knows me never dies. So how beautiful is this that, yes. So what does Quran say about intercession? We discussed a part of that today. I haven't looked into other verses in the Quran, but today's session was a look into intercession from the Quran. We discussed and touched upon many different ideas that gave us an overall look about what is intercession and how does the flawed idea of intercession contradict with other verses of the Quran. So if we go with the idea of this, unchecked idea of this letter of free card, right, which we sometimes think is intercession, or because you're a Muslim, you'll be free, or because you're this, then all sects, all communities, all religions say that, right? The Bani Israel, the Jews, they believe that they are the sacred saviors, the special people who have been saved. The Christians would believe that, Jesus went on the cross and, saved everybody else. The Muslims will say, oh, the Prophet came and, especially, the ideas of, oh, Imam Ali will save us or Imam Sadiq will save us because we are in the wilaya of Imam Ali. So these ideas, in my very humble understanding, they don't match up with the other truths of Quran, where Quran is very clear in saying that those who don't wake up, don't do their work here, will regret it. People are paired. People have to understand that they will regret the friends they made, right? And then they will regret over there. So all of these ideas in the Quran, which we touched upon today as we were going through our discussion, I think make it very clear that intercession is not an external free card that can be handed to anybody. It has to be earned. It has to be, worked for. I remember many years ago, there was a young boy who was much younger than me, and he was in school at the time, and we used to talk a lot, question and answer sessions, and he quoted a hadith, and I'm being very, I think, blunt here, but he quoted a hadith, and it was from Bihar al Anwar or somewhere, and he quoted this hadith which said that according to Imam Jafar Sadiq, people who believe in the wilaya of Hazrat Ali, they will enter heaven no matter what they do. And, I feel very concerned when I come across such a hadith, because I have to put it out there that in all sects, and this is something I've checked again and again, and I'm saying it with authority, in all sects, a lot of the ahadith are fabricated. We have to be very, very careful that the ahadith we read, the ahadith we narrate, they have been vetted and checked thoroughly for the chain of narrators, that they've gone through all the security checks of saying that this is an authentic hadith which should be openly narrated and quoted. Because according to some sources, a huge percentage, like 50+% of even Usul Kafi is in Ashkar. There's a doubt in the authenticity of a major chunk of such a revered book, right? And there's no point in one sect pointing fingers at the other sect. We're all the same. We're all in the same boat. We're all alike, because the writing and the collection of ahadith was banned for 200 years after the Prophet, and the collection of hadith started so much later, almost 200 years after there was a prohibition put there. So there's a big gap when it comes to hadith. So we have to be very, very careful what we're narrating, where we're narrating it from. Have we checked the chain? And then there's a hadith of Imam Ali which says that if you find a hadith that does not match with the Quran, then you can throw it up on the wall, right? So there are some very clear messages in the Quran which you'll see contradict so much of the hadith narrative, that one has to really wake up and understand that how is it possible that one can give their loyalties to hadith and not the Quran, because Quran is the word of God. It cannot be changed. It's under the protection of God. Then how can we go for a hadith and then misconstrue the obvious message in the Quran? The Quran says a lot of things very openly, but then a hadith come and then we get confused. So we have to make our grounding center in Quran and not blindly go with hadith. Now, a lot of people, a lot of scholars, they would vouch for Rasul Kafi. They would say that, some scholars had dreams about the authenticity of Rasul Kafi and things like that. But we have to, in the academic world, come to a place where we cannot go into these whimsical ideas at times, because a lot of times, this is my experience, a lot of times dreams, visions, insights, ilhams, they are not a universal truth, but they may be an opening into a certain self-realization for that particular person. Like I may see a dream, I may get a vision, I may get an insight, which is true for me. It's working for me. It helps me. It makes me understand myself better. It's a knowledge insight for my soul, but it's not a universal truth which I can go out and say, this is a finality from God and I received a message from God. That is not correct. So, it starts to create a lot of adulteration in the basic mechanism of finding legitimate, validated pieces of knowledge. And we know that this kind of adulteration in knowledge bases happens in not just Muslims, but in all religions, in historical data collection, in historical accounts, in narratives. I mean, I have studied world history, and after studying world history in my A-levels for 2 years, and learning a lot of facts and writing them in my exam, at one point we came to the conclusion that we really don't know the authenticity of so many facts. We had to study so many different historians explaining the same situation, right? And that's what we do when we study world history. And it's crazy how human memory fails us, and human perspectives create bias in the narrations. So we have to go for that center that grounds us so that there is least possible chance of adulteration in the knowledge, right? So I don't know where I started and where I ended my discussion. I'm forgetting even where I started. So is there a notion of intercession in Christianity? I think I have not studied it, so please don't go by what I'm saying. But as far as I know, from what I understand from mainstream media and some of what I've read, is that Jesus kind of saved them, right? And then they have the idea of the original sin. And so, like there's this idea that an external entity is becoming a cause of sin, is becoming a cause of retribution, is becoming a cause of redemption, is becoming there's an external power outside of me that somehow holds a power over me. And if that is the case, I'm not saying that is what they're saying. Please correct me if any of you know, and please correct me if I'm wrong. But if that is the case, then it really defeats the purpose of the human journey itself. And so we need to reflect on this. And I would just invite everyone to reflect with a really, really open heart, with a lot of open-mindedness, to go back to the intention of doing life over here. What is the intention of doing life over here? And if the intention of life is human actualization and perfection, then how does everything else fall into place in the scheme of this idea, right? Yeah, and the last quote was, I said to God, I will not die before I know you. And God replied, he who knows me never dies, right? In the Quran also, we have this beautiful verse where Allah says that those who die in the way of God, do not call them dead. They are alive, and indeed they receive sustenance from me. And I think that there's also a hadith which says that those who die they're pursuing the truth, they're in the search of truth, they die as shuhada. And so, the verse in the Quran which says those who die in the way of God is also pertaining to this idea of martyrdom, of being a shaheed, of being shuhada. Now, if we go into the root word understanding of shuhada, it is witnessing, witnessing. And those who are witnessing of their own selves. And what do witness people do? Their eyes are open, they're witnessing something. And that is the idea of awakening. People who are awakened, they are the shuhada. They have awakened, they're witnessing. They're awakened to reality and unveiling. When we enter a state of this awakenedness and we become the shuhada, the witnesses who are witnessing the truth, then there's a pursuing of the truth. And in the path of the pursuing of the truth, there's no death. Like I said, the trajectory is ongoing, infinite trajectory of pursuing of the truth. Allah is al-haq. And that haq has, in Surah Rahman, Allah says, Kulla yawmin wa fi sha'an. Allah in every moment is manifesting his beauty and grandeur and manifestation. So that journey never ends. So, we think that this life is small and, in our own little cute way, in this quote, we're saying, Allah, please show me yourself before I die. And again, I want to know you. I want to have your marifat. I want to have the irfan, and I want to have the witnessing of you, which Musa asked for, right? God, I want to see you. I want to see you. And even that's another discussion. The crushing of the mountain is metaphorical of the ego breaking, right? So when we go into that reality, then when we enter that place, then there's no death. And the soul becomes eternal, beautiful. And we have so many physical stories, even recently I saw pictures of somebody who did something very noble and holy and died, and their graves had to be switched and changed for some reason. And when they were dug out after 2 months, the body was fresh and it was full of fragrance. So, they don't die. They literally don't die. There's a beauty there that preserves. So, Alhamdulillah, thank you so much for this beautiful discussion. And if there's anything else that you guys have that you can share with me, please do. I would love to learn. I don't think I did justice to these questions. What does Quran say about intercession? There's a lot on intercession which I didn't touch on. There's a notion of intercession in Christianity. I just shared off the cuff whatever I know, but there must be a lot I don't know of. So please do share. And this also opens for us a little nudge to go and do more reading and researching. So always try to look into this. Thank you, everybody, for your patience, for joining me, for being here and making these sessions so wonderful. I really, really benefit from your presence every week, and I'm so grateful for that. Please remember me and my family in your prayers, as all of you are in my prayers, and have a lovely weekend. Take care, everybody. Khuda Hafiz.